Okay, so we're about to do larger and more complicated translations. Okay, we started off in 2.1 with some very easy ones, and now we're supposing that we had an ordinary English sentence and we substituted out the statements for statement constants, and then we're going to finish the translation. Okay? Okay, so 2.5, number 1. Okay? Okay. So number 1 says X or Y or Z, I believe. Okay? Now, here's the problem. If we just put in the logical operators, we get X or Y or Z. Now, there is no order of operations, not even left to right. So is this a well-formed formula? No, it is not, okay? But we can make it one. And so if you ended up with this would be not a well-formed formula. So you're going to arbitrarily put in some parentheses. You can put them in there, and now it's sensible, or you could put them in here and it's sensible, and these two things mean the same thing. Does everybody understand this? Okay. So if I had a string of disjunctions, I could arbitrarily put in parentheses to make it a well-formed formula. Everybody got that? I can also do that if I have a string of conjunctions. If I had A and B and C, that would not be a well-formed formula, but I could arbitrarily put in parentheses there, or I could do this. I must do one of those, otherwise it's not a well-formed formula, okay? So notice I've said you can do it with disjunctions and conjunctions. You can also do it with biconditionals, L if and only if, M if and only if, O. Okay, that is logically ambiguous, so arbitrarily we could do this. Now it's a well-formed formula, or we could do this. We must do one of these two to make it a well-formed formula, okay? So we can arbitrarily introduce parentheses if we have a string of disjunctions, a string of conjunctions, or biconditionals. Everybody got that? You can't do it if you have something like this, A, then B, then C. You can't, it doesn't work. Logically speaking, where you put those parentheses in will change the meanings. These mean the same thing, the disjunctions, conjunctions, and biconditionals. But you can't do it with a string of conditionals. Does everybody understand that? Similarly, if you got something like this, A and B or C, and there was no natural grouping of which one went together, A and B first, or B or C first, that's logically ambiguous. Does everybody got that? So this would not be a well-formed formula, right? So if you were doing a translation and you ended up with this, something's wrong, you gotta go figure out which belongs. Where does the B belong? Does it belong with the A or does it belong with the C? Everybody got that? Okay, so that was number 1. I said a bunch of stuff. So number 3, we have, I'm going to switch pens here, X or Y, comma, or Z. Looks the same as what we have above, which we said is logically ambiguous unless we introduce parentheses. Now this one, this comma is very significant. Comma followed by an operator signals that this is the main logical operator, okay? So what's to the right is one disjunct, and what's to the left is another disjunct. Everybody got that? So that's what I would have to write. Now, are these parentheses necessary? Answer, no. You could write this and that would be perfectly good, okay? I don't count off for unnecessary parentheses, but if you're missing parentheses, that's a problem. Yes?
Why didn't you count the and? The commas and and?
A comma is not a logical operator. A comma just signals which of the existing logical operators has priority. Okay? So a comma is not a logical operator. That's a good question. Okay, so let me look at 5. 5 says L is a necessary and sufficient condition for M, comma, if and only if and, okay? Now, we know that is a necessary and sufficient condition for is the biconditional. So what we have is L if and only if M, comma, and if and IFF is if and only if M, okay? So the comma with the operator tells us that that one is the main logical operator. So to keep it the main logical operator, I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, hey, there's stuff to the right and there's stuff to the left. We'll keep it together. Over here, it's just N. And over here, it's L if and only if M. So that would be a right answer. Of course, these parentheses are unnecessary. You could drop them off if you wanted. But I get in the habit of putting them on because if this expression were nested in an even larger one, it might be necessary to have those parentheses there. Does everybody understand that? So I get in the habit of making sure that I have enough parentheses, maybe too many parentheses, rather than not enough. Okay, so that takes me to 7. A and both X and Y, okay? So if we just think about the operators, we have A and both X and Y, okay? And the question is, what does this both do? Because if we just had it like this, X and, or A and X and Y, that would be logically ambiguous. Does everybody understand? That would not be a well-formed formula. But both tells us keep the stuff behind together. So it's saying that these have to be grouped together. So the proper way to write this would be A and X and Y with these things in parentheses. So the main logical operator would be the first conjunction. Does everybody understand that? And to have written it this way, A and X and Y would not be the proper way to write it. Okay? All right, so that was 7. Okay, 9. It says, it is not the case that either X and Y or Z. Okay, so it is not the case that is a negation. Now we got this either business. Here's the deal. Either signals the beginning of an or. Does everybody understand that? And so whenever I see either, I'm going to write a parentheses saying I'm starting an or, okay? And I'm also going to write a parentheses to say, and let me find the first disjunct. The first disjunct follows the either until I hit the or. Does everybody understand that? So here's either, so I'm looking for the or, there's the or. That means all of that is the first disjunct, X and Y, or Z, and then close the or. Does everybody understand that? Okay. Now really, if I were being very careful or mechanical, I would end up with this, x and y, or, and then start the second disjunct. I don't know where it's going to end. Oh, it ends right there very easily. Boom. Okay. If I were being very mechanical about it, I would write this to be safe, but this is acceptable. Okay. Now the question is this. You might ask, is that parentheses necessary? I'm going to say yes. First of all, just be mechanical about this. Monkey see, monkey do. It is not the case that, so negation, either put up with parentheses. Okay? Suppose that you took up this, you took away that parentheses, and so you ended up with not x and y or z. Notice the huge difference between this. This is a negation, main operator is negation, right? And this, the main operator is an or. Those are completely different kinds of statements, right? So this parentheses is absolutely necessary. It keeps the negation negating an or rather than negating a conjunction. And notice what it says, not either. That's not an or. Okay. So let's see, that takes me to 11. So 11 says either. It is not the case that, so I'll just write not for that. And then it says both x and y or z. Okay, so first of all, either. Boom, I'm starting an or, right? And until I hit the or, it's all the first disjunct. So I'm going to put up another parentheses to hold everything together until I hit the or. And so either blah, 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 or. All of this is in the first